Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Handmade by Ying with Donna. Today is October the 26th and I'm bringing you Janet's story today. Memorable moments often happen unexpectedly. One of mine occurred one dusky evening when I was living in North Carolina. While driving home from a friend's house, I noticed a mass of twinkling lights in a field. I quickly pulled over thinking I was about to pass out or something. What are all those twinkling lights? I asked myself. Are they aliens from outer space? Or are they just lights in a field? As it turned out, the field was alive with fireflies. I had never seen a cluster like that in all of my life, and I'm a native of Colorado. It looked like a sea of Christmas lights moving. Once I realized I was not out of my mind, I sat still and in awe of this unexpected, glorious wonderment. When one of my good friends decided to become a midwife in the hills of the Appalachians, I was intrigued, so I joined her in North Carolina. I felt like I had landed in a vortex of like-minded, New Age city folks who were transforming themselves like me into the country explorers. Although I experienced culture shock initially, I eventually became settled in and fully experienced all of this life that it had to offer. In a matter of several months, I was gardening, keeping bees, and building a small cabin. We always had to cut the wood and feed the wood to the wood stove in the winters. The locals would tell me it's the fuel that heats you twice, once while you're splitting it and once while you're burning it. And yes, it was hard at times, but it was enriching, and I learned so much about my own strength and my own capabilities. In many ways, those years taught me how to live close to the earth, be more self-reliant, and develop a deeper sense of connection with others. I really did take a village to get through the highs and the lows of living so rural. All those adventures have brought me to a place where I am today, seeing myself deeply connected to others, practicing gratitude with every waking day, when the day and the nights would get quite rough. I moved on to the next chapter. While I was out in the wilderness, I made some wonderful friends with whom I remained close. Eventually, I decided to move out of the mountains. About 10 years into the experiment, I began to feel the pull of modern life, so to speak. I felt like it was time to build and grow up a career and become a part of the larger society while I was still young enough to clear a new path. So I moved to the Pacific Northwest and studied vocational rehabilitation. I still wanted to give back, and I still wanted to be in an environment surrounded by nature. Years went by and my career and my personal life flourished. I met and married an amazing man who is now my husband, and we are both active in our communities. We have a lot of fun together, but this all changed in what seemed like an instant. Life sure has a way of waking a person up, as I like to call it, hitting one with a comic 2x4. You know, when you think about all life's problems, that you've got them all figured out and some major hurdles overcome, you get a message from the universe that you still need to do more work. I was working as a professional vocational rehabilitation counselor and on weekends being very active outdoors in the Pacific Northwest mountains. When I kept having issues with heartburn, I ignored it for a long time as I was not worried. I figured I was just too busy or maybe a bit stressed. I went in to see my primary care physician, who suggested I had an abnormal ultrasound or a CT to check for ulcers or something similar. It was not particularly concerning, and I was assured that if there was anything amiss, that it could be managed easily, though. Boy, was I wrong, very wrong as it turned out. the diagnosis and the direction. Little did I know that the results of these tests would involve more tests, surgery for what was thought to be a tumor in my colon, and then the surgeons telling me he could not do the procedure he had planned because the tumor was attached to vital organs instead. He took biopsies of my gut, and a few days later, while I was still recovering from that, in the hospital, I was told I had stage 5 HR positive, HR2 negative metastatic breast cancer. That was the cosmic 2x4 that I never saw coming. I was emotionally numb. I had mammograms every year with no signs of cancer, no problems, with no recent colonoscopy, so the diagnosis has totally knocked me off my feet and the wind out of me. Of course, I had heard about breast cancer, but I never really worried about having it as I kept up with all my annual checkups. I had no idea how much my life would be changing. I kept thinking, stage 5, what happens to stage 1, stage 2, and 3? Metastatic breast cancer? How does breast cancer spread to the other organs without ever being detected? My head was spinning with so many questions. During the day, I felt like I was strong and being strong for my husband, my friends, my medical staff. However, when I was alone in the early morning hours, I felt myself sobbing uncontrollably in disbelief that this was really happening to me. This comic 2x4 was very difficult, and it was very different. Suddenly, I was being told about treatment options, learning new terms, and reading about life expectancy. It was so overwhelming. I spent my adult life making sure we were able to thrive, and now I was the one who needed all the support that I was there giving out. My oncologist told me that we would discuss my treatment options. But as I read, I learned about Ibrance, which is a new prescription medication used to treat patients with my type of cancer. It was explained that I would take this medicine on a cycle of 3 weeks and off for one in combination with another med. And it would take it every other day. My doctors told me about the possible benefits and the common and potential side effects. I experienced some side effects with this combination, including my low white cells, the fatigue, the normal hair thinning, and some aches and pains. I didn't have energy once in a while, but that was okay. The path back to me, I wondered how I would face cancer. Fortunately, my psychology is, my philosophy is that we're all created from the stardust. We are all walking each other home. Our life is just a journey, and we call it life. I believe that there was so much more for me to do in this life. My life in those lonely early morning hours in the days soon after diagnosis began to take on a new shape. I remember all those times in the Appalachian where I had often relied on nothing more than a bundle of chopped wood and a few jugs of water in the support of the rural community. In a few weeks and then a few months that followed the diagnosis, I was able to begin to process finding me again. I decided I had a choice about how I was going to represent and cope and fight this new reality. I could live in fear, guilt, shame, blame, or move forward purposefully, knowing that whatever strong connections that I needed to be with like-minded people. You can live full and reclaim all the possibilities. I chose to surround myself with people and slowly but surely additional choices that would allow me to have more peace. I quit my job for one thing. I wanted to be able to stop and smell the roses. I focused on all the goodness that the world had to offer. I remember that moment, seeing all those twinkling lights and all those amazing sights I had seen while hiking in the mountain. By doing so, I learned that there's a few possibilities. If I just could meditate and do the work, slow down, and find childlike joy in the smallest of the miracles, I could breathe. Try to live in the moment, repeat the process again and again, and recognize there is still gratitude in life as you take on this new fight. What is mine today can be caused by my actions and my behavior to make things positive. I feel I'm beginning to feel the loving hands of my spiritual community, my relationships, and especially my loving spouse. I can still enjoy the things that I did prior, and I'm gaining myself back one day at a time. I find that gratitude is what is seeing me through. So that's a very long story about a lady in a fight, but it shows that she takes it on one day at a time. So regardless of your journey, regardless of your fight, one step at a time. So take care. God bless, and I'll see you back in the next video.